Hey YouTube, how you doing? God bless you this morning. Prayerfully, this video finds you exceptionally well. Real quickly, I want to talk to you this morning about perception. I'm not going to be before you long. I'm just going to go through a couple slides to make my point. Okay. All right. Sometimes we see things differently in the world, and sometimes we criticize others because they don't see the way we see. And there's an old saying from the country, there are more ways to skin a cat than one. That means there are a couple ways that you can do things, or there are a couple ways that you can see it. There are different outlooks. And I think sometimes our perceptions, our assumptions, how we perceive and how we think, our thoughts are based on customs and our belief system and how we were raised. So that kind of forms and conditions our mind to think a certain way. So when we go out in the world, that's why sometimes we're not open minded, because we were raised a certain way. And many times we think that way is the only way. I thought like that at one time. I'm from the country. I was raised to think this way, especially in a church setting. If you didn't dance, if you didn't shout, if you didn't speak in tongues, then you didn't have church. I really didn't understand that it didn't take all that falling out and stuff to really have a relationship with the Lord. Really, our relationship with the Lord is, based on prayer and reading the word and, worship. It's not a lot of theatrics. And that's what I thought it was, how you treat your neighbor, how, if you love your neighbor, are we displaying the fruits of the spirits, those type of things. Well, I really wasn't trained to think that way. That's really what your relationship is with God, as opposed to just coming to a church setting on Sunday and exercising, so to speak. And the reason why I call it an exercising class, because many people go in and they do the dancing, the screaming and the hollering, the falling out, but then they still lying, or they still mistreating their neighbors, or backbiting and gossiping. So my perception has really developed and changed over the years. Now, 2 Kings 6:17 said, and Elijah prayed and said, Lord, I pray, open his eyes that he may see. So in essence, Elisha was praying because his servant Gehazi was disturbed because he didn't see the support that he needed to go in battle. But Elisha, being a prophet, he didn't look at his natural circumstances. He saw in the spirit. So he was able to see the multitudes. He was able to see the army, and he prayed for his servant that God would open his eyes so he can see in the spirit. And after that prayer, Gehazi was able to see what Elijah saw. So what am I saying? Just because people don't see like you see, don't get frustrated. Maybe that person is not there spiritually. Maybe that person is still developing, because sometimes when we develop and we mature and we grow, our perception changes. Oh, come on, somebody. Y'all experienced that. You didn't see things like you didn't see things now like you saw back then, or you didn't see back then like you seeing right now, because your perception changes as we grow. And it should. We should develop, right? We should see things better. We should have an open mind to a lot of things. All right, so I just want to go over a couple exercises to kind of test our perception, to let you know that just because somebody else sees something different than you, it doesn't mean that they're wrong, right? And many times we have arguments and disagreements because people don't see the same way we see. That's not going to happen. That's why we in this diverse world, because people have different perspectives and different opinions and different thoughts, right? Maybe they'll see it later on. I mean, we tell our young people, you don't understand right now. Just keep living. You don't see it right now. Just let them see like they're seeing. And as they bump their heads and grow and gain wisdom, then they'll begin to see what you see. Right. And that's the same with people. Just let them keep experiencing life. They'll be able to see it like you see it, just like Elisha when he prayed for his servant. That's what you need to do. Pray for the folks that God would let them see what they need to see. And then, like I said, in some cases, people are not going to see it the way you see it. Right. I might cook this way. You might cook that way. You might season your chicken and put flour on it. Somebody else might season their chicken and put egg, flour, and milk and use that as a batter, right? I mean, both makes good fried chicken. So there are two ways you can see that. And in many things in life, we can have different perspectives, and none of the perspectives are wrong. It's just based on your perception. Now let's go through a couple. Right here, I want to challenge here. You put in the comment section if you want to. I guess this is kind of a little game too, but this is also an exhortation. So this is like a hybrid between a little game and exhortation. What do you see in this picture here? Do you see a rabbit or you see a duck? You can put in the comment section if you like to engage and humor me. I would appreciate it if you would, because I like to hear from you. Now, from looking at this, when I first look at this here, I see a duck. But as I keep staring, I'm open-minded. I am willing to see a rabbit. And I do see a rabbit. So you see how that works? We got to try to understand and see it from the other side sometimes too. So I see both a duck and a rabbit because I had to keep staring. So tell me what you see. And some of you might not even see the rabbit. Some of you might just see the duck. But that don't mean a rabbit ain't there just because you see a duck. Somebody else sees a rabbit. You can't just fuss and say, that's a duck. That's no rabbit. That's a duck. The other person might say, oh, no, that's a rabbit. That ain't no duck. Well, I see both. So tell me what you see. Going to the next one. This is fairly simple, right? Do you see a 6 or do you see a 9? I mean, I see both. It depends on how you look at it, right? If I go kind of to the left a little bit, my left actually, it looks more like a 6. If I go to the right a little bit and look at it from this angle, it looks like a 9. So it depends on what angle you come from. Y'all see the spiritual significance in this? You see how you can apply this in life? So the other part, it might not be wrong. It's a 6 and it is a 9. It depends on how you see it. Oh, come on, somebody. Woohoo. I love these exhortations, y'all. We learn so much from them. I know I do. And I like to share with you what I learned. All right, here it is. We hear this all the time, especially in the business world. Is the glass half full or is it half empty? When we're having conversations and we're debating about something, is it half full or is it half empty? This is a pretty simple one here. It's both, right? It's still 50% full, 50% empty. No matter how you slice and dice it, it's still half. Yes. All right. Now, this one here is a hard one for me. And many of us probably have seen this picture floating around over the years. And I never can see a young woman. Now, I'm not saying the young woman is not there. Of course, we know she in there somewhere, but I can't see it right now. Now, I might see it after I get off this exhortation, but I see an old woman. Tell me, what do you see? Do you see an old woman or a young woman, or do you see both? I cannot see the young woman. I see the old woman. So if I get in a conversation with somebody say, no, that's a young woman. I might say that's an old woman. Well, I'm mature enough to know, okay, well, that's what you see. You see a young woman, but I see an old woman, right? So it just depends on our perception. I don't see a young woman here. All right, moving right along. Here's another one here. This is kind of interesting. This elephant, y'all, we know elephants have 4 legs. We know that, right? But here, how many legs do you see? Do you see 4? Do you see 6? Do you see 8? Again, it's all about our perception, how we see. Let me know. All right, friends, thank you for engaging with me on this exhortation. I just thought I'd bring it to you in this manner. Just remember in life that people perceive differently, right? And just because you see it a certain way, doesn't mean that your way is Bible. It doesn't mean that your way is the end all be all. It's the only way. There are other ways that people can see things, right? And if you want somebody to see something that they're really not mature or at a level where they can see right now, just be patient with them as they keep living, as they experience, they'll see what they need to see later on in life. Friend, thank you for visiting the channel. Continue to share these videos and subscribe. Share these with your families and your friends that, probably could use these In the meantime, in between time, be at peace and not in pieces. Till next time, my friend.